There are many things I struggle to remember from my early childhood days. Heck, I don't even remember the first time I watched Cartoon Network. However, one thing I can be sure, Ed, and Eddy was there. If there's one thing I don't doubt is that Ed, and Eddy was the most impactful cartoon of my childhood, rivaling the Powerpuff Girls' Dexter's Laboratory and Courage the Cowardly Dog. It is one of the earliest memories of my childhood, and for the longest time, it was my favorite cartoon airing on that channel. Unfortunately, I can't say the same today. If I had to make a list of my top 10 favorite Cartoon Network shows of all time, I'm not sure Ed and Eddy would make the list. Does it hold up? Yes. Rewatching this show, I got the same feeling and enjoyment I had as a kid, but there are a few missteps and infuriating moments I spotted while watching it. So, here's my review. So Ed, and Eddy is a show about three kids called Ed, and Eddy who try to scam a bunch of kids in their neighborhood in order to gain money to buy jawbreakers. The show is very slapsticky, which is one of the strongest aspects of this show. Its humor partially comes from how bizarre, creative, and imaginative some of the events are. The animation is carefully handled in order to portray some of the slapsticky events. However, in my opinion, the strongest aspect of the show is the set of the three main characters. Eddy is arguably the main character and the leader. He's the one who comes up with the scams which always go wrong. He's very greedy and has a mean temper, which was funny in the first three seasons, but then he suffered the same fate Blue did. The show refused to develop his character and instead continued relying on his rotten side to carry his character. After a while, watching him being despicable becomes old, and in season 5 the show pushed his rotten side a little too far, but luckily even in the later seasons he continued to be punished, but I still wish we would see a little more of his human side and less of his greedy side. Ed is my favorite character with no doubt. He's incredibly stupid and that's where his humor comes from. His stupidity is usually the cause of the failure of every scam, which makes him a viral character as he's the one who unintentionally usually puts an end to the shameful scams in really funny ways. However, the most attracting thing about his character is his attitude. He's a really nice guy, and whenever I see Eddy plan something despicable, even for me, all I do is look at lighthearted Ed, and I can't help but smile. Of course, he's not always nice, as he does suffer a lot of influence from Eddy, which is fine for me, as at least he gives Eddy some company, and he does get punished, even if sometimes he doesn't feel pain, which is something I also like about him. Then there's Double D, who might be the most tragic character of all of them. He's the smartest, most logical, most reasonable, and has the heaviest conscience. He's the one who helps set the scams, but he also is the one who tries to convince not to go for it. He's easily the most good-natured of the three of them. He has a great influence on Ed as he does usually try to convince Ed to do the right thing, and Ed does occasionally listen to him. I wouldn't say the same for Eddy, but Eddy for the most part doesn't listen to him. The reason why I say that Double D is the most tragic character is the following. Ed, and Eddy receives praise for punishing the right characters when they deserve, but as much as I wish that were true, it's not. Firstly, because of Double D. Now, not to say that Double D doesn't deserve to be punished, as he does help set up the scams, but because he tries to convince not to do the scam, is usually nice to everyone and he feels a lot of guilt, I don't think he deserves to receive the same punishment as Ed and Eddy, especially Eddy. And that happens all the time, even when Eddy is the one luring him to the scams and leading both Ed and Double D to his crazy ideas. The other reason why I think the karma is unbalanced is the other kids. Now, for the most part, the Eds are the bad guys, but the other kids are not innocent. Of course, my complaint is not that the other kids aren't perfect, my complaint is that the show never acknowledges their flaws. The biggest examples are Kevin and Sarah. Kevin is a jerk, and sometimes he can even come up as a bully. There are episodes where Kevin is a real jerk to Eddy, even though Eddy did nothing wrong. Well, I mean, nothing wrong enough to receive torture from Kevin, and the show rarely punishes Kevin for it. But even when Eddy does deserve to be punished, Kevin's attitude is not appropriate. Then there's Sarah, easily the worst character of this show. For no reason other than her own satisfaction, Sarah torments Ed, and she never gets punished. Even when Ed does nothing wrong, Sarah torments him. The most frustrating thing is that Ed never reciprocates Sarah's attitude. Ed is always nice to her and she's never nice to him back. She's always a brat. I'll be honest, sometimes I wish Eddy would just punch her. Seriously, sometimes I wish Eddy would just punch her and yell, if you're not going to like or respect Ed, leave him alone and shut up. I mean, what else can I say about someone spoiled who tortures and takes advantage of the nicest brother you can find? I know Ed can be clumsy, but the amount of effort he puts to be the best brother he can be does not deserve to be taken for granted and spitted in the face. The worst part is that she never gets punished. I've talked about Sarah before, and I get the feeling what I said was not enough to describe everything wrong with her, as Sarah is easily one of my least favorite characters in animation history. And that's not all. There are so many bad things the other kids do and never punished for doing them. Like how they outcast the Eds, how Rolf's cultural beliefs sometimes lead him to unfairly hurt people, and so more. These things even lead me not to like some of them. Out of all the kids, the only one I actually like are Johnny, Nez, and Rolf. Rolf can sometimes be generous and helpful, plus his attachment to his culture is pretty funny. Nez can be caring and she mostly gives the Eds a chance. Johnny 2x4, despite coming off as strange initially and kind of annoying, he's heartwarming. I find his friendship with Plank to be inspired. Whether or not Plank has life, one thing we can agree is that Plank is an important member of Johnny's life, and he gives Johnny confidence to face the world. Jimmy, I have mixed feelings. His heart seems to be in the right place, and he even hung out with the Ed several times, but he tends to trust and embark on Sarah's antics a lot. Plus, he has shown to have a bit of a dark hatred for the Eds. I guess he has a reason not to like them, but sometimes he shows to have a hatred for the Eds that I just wouldn't expect from him. But I will say this, if there's one thing I immensely praise Jimmy for is making Sarah look like a human being. Whenever Sarah's around Jimmy, we see a loving and caring side of Sarah, which I can appreciate. Nevertheless, Kevin and Sarah continue to be the characters I absolutely hate. Look, I'm not saying they shouldn't have these flaws, heck, their flaws make those moments where Ed and Eddy rip on them funny. I'm also not saying they are worse than the Eds, but the show should have acknowledged their flaws from them and punished them more. Maybe not as much as the Eds, but somehow punish them. They got free a lot, and I mean a lot. They got away free from punishment more than Double D. I think that's more than one sign that something's clearly wrong. Oh, then there are the Canker sisters. I don't like them. They sexually arrest the Eds and the show played it out as a joke. I mean, the characters individually, they're actually not that bad. It's actually kind of funny watching them interact with each other, but when they interact with the Eds, that's when things become really disturbing. I don't know, maybe it's just me, I just don't find the concept of them sexually harassing the Eds for no reason to be funny in the slightest.
He's had enough already! Beat it!
Good one, Eddy.
Vultures!
You know, I'm not sure my love for Ed and Eddy right now would be the same if I hadn't seen the movie. Even though I had to wait 5 kind of frustrating seasons, it felt kind of worth it after I watched the Big Picture show. It was a great conclusion to the show. However, I'm not sure I'll be rewatching Ed and Eddy anytime soon. I'm still not over all of the infuriating moments. Regarding the movie, I won't review it in this video. If I'm going to review the Big Picture show, it's gonna have its own video. For now, all I can say is that it gave us the development we were craving from Double D and especially Eddy. Something else I would like to point out is that for once, this isn't a story about the Eds trying out a scam, and throughout the journey we saw a lot of Ed and Eddy hanging out. Ed and Eddy's relationship has always been the most amusing and pleasant element of the show for me. Not only because both of them together can do some ridiculously hilarious things, but also because it's the one time Eddy is actually kind of happy and not because of his greed. He's just having fun with his friend. I guess when you think about it, Ed and Eddy is really a show that tries to warn you not to pander to people. Eddy tried really hard to look cool around his acquaintances who already don't like him, and it went nowhere. Ed tried his best to be the best brother he can be to someone who doesn't even like him, and it went nowhere. Maybe the show is trying to say to be yourself, like how Eddy was at the end of the movie, and not let your greed take over you, and stick with your friends. I guess to wrap it up, as much as I complained that Ed and Eddy had unsatisfying episodes, one thing I can't deny is that it made me feel. It tickled my feelings, and for someone who grew up with these characters, it was an emotional ride, intentionally or unintentionally. I guess at the end of the day, with the big picture show, I got the satisfaction I needed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.
My best friend playing, my best friend